Talking through with the research that's been done at our land-grant university, Michigan State University, which does a phenomenal job for northern Michigan. Have you seen the populations of the fish change? Are there more muskies and less lake trout, or is it too early to tell with the zebra mussel?
Well, in your district, it's hard to say, but the zebra mussels have radically changed to, for instance, Lake St. Clair, the wide part of the connecting waters between Port Huron and Detroit. The large lake down there the muskie population is a world-class muskie population, and part of that is because of the water clarity with the zebra mussels. But the walleye aren't hanging around there anymore, so they've seen a little bit of a fish change. But it's been a neat marketing thing for the Southeast Michigan folks, because that's a phenomenal fishery. But the research in northern Michigan, the whitefish is an incredibly important food commodity, very healthy for us to eat. A lot of commercial fishing on that. And all the popular salmonid fisheries that we have, the charter boat industry is really huge, and it's because we invest a little bit of money and get a return on control of things that we can, like the sea lamprey. And what we don't know is once many of these other species are in there, there's no magic silver bullet to control them. So the round goby fish, if we can talk about the round goby.
Do we need to talk any more about the cousin of
the cousin of the zebra mussel is the quagga mussel. And the zebra mussel tended to live in more shallow waters, and it needed a hard rocky substrate in general to attach to, sometimes your docks. The quagga is just a cousin. It's a different species, same genus, and it'll live in deeper water. It does not need the hard substrate to live on. And so again, it's blanketing more the bottom of all of Lake Michigan, Lake Superior than anybody. It's the dominant mussel of the dracaenid species, the quagga mussel.
Lake Michigan, I believe, if I remember my geography from school, is about 780 feet deep at its deepest point. Are they all the way at the bottom of Lake Michigan?
They've definitely confirmed them at 400 or 500 feet of depths in the middle of the lake. So I don't know if they're in the deepest part, but I mean they're very dominant and very much a continuing concern, because again we can just observe them continue to reproduce, and long term, and nobody really knows what long term is, they will have a stable population, but we just don't know if that's decades from now or centuries.
Now, one of the predators that eats the zebra mussel and its cousin is the goby, right?
Yeah, the round goby is a little invasive fish that gets 6 to 8 inches long at maximum. Most of them are even slightly smaller than that, and they came from the same part of Europe. And they were first found in the Great Lakes down by Port Huron in the St. Clair River in the early 90s. And within 2 years, they spread to all 5 Great Lakes.
Now, do you sense those came in on ballast water? Is that the likely culprit?
That is the most likely culprit, is by a ballast tank coming in and changing. So, and I know the shipping interests are working and trying to make changes, but again, when we have new species coming in all the time, there's reports that we could have a new species in the Great Lakes every 24 months at a it's easy, and sometimes they don't all live and thrive here. We have to have species that want to live and able to live in this part of North America. But we find other ones that we know will never reproduce here, and again, that's another indicator that unfortunately they've probably come in.
Wow. So they came in on ballast water. And same thing like the zebra mussel, probably.
Yes, the zebra mussel is almost confirmed to have come in by ballast water. And again, there's natural dispersion, and one of our goals is to educate people. Maybe there's ways we can slow down the spread if an invasive ever comes into part of the state.
So then it reproduces, must be very prolific.
The zebra mussels?
No, the goby.
The gobies they have 5 broods a year.
Wow.
And they live in real dark, murky waters. They're a very aggressive fish. And if you ever fish for walleye, maybe with a worm in parts where they're very dense, they just attack the worm and are very aggressive. And they eat other native fish eggs. They'll eat anything from lake sturgeon eggs to walleye, smallmouth bass eggs. There was a confirmed study that smallmouth bass that were caught on their bed, and they were doing a catch and release fishery. The bass would swim off of its bed, the gobies would swim in and eat the eggs, and then the bass would go back and swim back to its nest, and there wouldn't be any eggs left. So, so anyways, the gobies are very prolific, very abundant.
How large do they get?
They get about 6 inches. You really don't see them. The people that are in the diving community tell me they just enjoy watching them bouncing around the bottom. They hang around the bottom in kind of murky areas or just very much on the bottom of the lakes. But for instance, they've really increased their abundance in Grand Traverse Bay in the last couple of years, and really all along the shores of Lake Michigan and up in the St. Mary's River.
Are they edible?
all the fish, some of the fish will kind of be opportunistic. They'll say, wow, there's all these gobies, maybe I should eat some of them. And so they are eating gobies, and they're eating zebra mussels. The whitefish actually have quite a bit of zebra mussels in their diet now. So they've changed to kind of what's available from what it used to be, but it's kind of a radically changed food web from what it used to be.
Okay. Now, for human consumption, is it, are we going to see this goby become sort of the perch of my generation when I was growing up?
They're not very good to eat, Jason. So I don't think people are really going to want to eat them. So, but we hope the perch populations will continue to do well. Kind of a cousin of the perch populations was still an unknown is the ruff, the Eurasian ruff. It's actually a member of the perch family. These again only get in the 6-8 inches. They have a very large spiny dorsal fin, and they are definitely a cousin of the perch. And they were actually brought in by ballast water all the way to Duluth, Minnesota.
Really?
They didn't stop anywhere else first, and then all of a sudden they found ruff, and they started spreading in the Duluth harbor, and pretty soon they were up in the Keweenaw, and now they've been confirmed in Tequamanen Falls. They're confirmed that they're reproducing in Tequamanen Falls, and they worked with the shipping industry, but they had ruff that were carried by ballast by Interlaker down to Alpena, Michigan, so they're in Thunder Bay River as well as Badenoch. Wow. So they may have more of an impact on the perch fishery. We'll just have to see what happens on that. But again, these are confounding problems in the Great Lakes. So
see, our listeners from the eastern UP would really hope that the cormorants would be eating these.
Right, absolutely. And the cormorants are definitely one of those challenging species as well.
Now, are they classified as an exotic species?
No, they're not. They're actually native here, but they're certainly problematic. And there's issues on all sides of the cormorant issue. But
have you gotten is our Sea Grant, Michigan State, gotten involved in this at all?
Michigan Sea Grant has been approached by a number of people, and we may be doing kind of a metadata analysis on different aspects of the cormorant whole issue. So
now, what would metadata mean?
It would be like analyzing both fishery data, conservation biology data. One of the issues with cormorants is actually defoliate, where they actually build their rookeries. Right. For instance, Sleeping Bear Dunes National Park actually had to work on some cormorant control because they may have been nesting where they would kill these huge 100-plus-year-old trees in what's called the Valley of the Giants on South Manitou Island. Right. So cormorants are kind of a multi-angled challenge, but Michigan Sea Grant has been working and bringing the USDA Wildlife Services out to many constituent meetings and learning what they're doing as they've done some egg oiling and some other control methods in various parts, including in the Lake Cheneaux and Drummond Island and Thunder Bay and other places.
Tell me a little bit. We talked about sort of this red shrimp. What's that?
There's several species of native shrimp, native little diparia that are so key for our fisheries. The lake trout, the whitefish, the salmonids. Now we have a new one, and we don't really know the impacts. I mean, it potentially could be a food source for some of those bigger fish, but we also are very concerned that the densities. This fish, this little bloody red shrimp, has actually been found very close to shores and docks in large swarms in the Muskegon area, where it was just documented in November. So we're at the very early stages. Again, it's from the same part of the world. These species all come from Eurasia.
Right. Now, Eurasia is sort of the Caspian?
The Baltic, Caspian, and in fact, this particular species of bloody red shrimp has actually spread from, kind of the inner part of Eurasia out to even England. And so some of the research papers that we've just investigated have come from England because they now have it in some of their inland lakes. Okay, so what are the types of things is this swarming shrimp done? Well, again, it's depending on what food it's actually going to eat. There's been some press articles in the last few weeks and months about concern again on competing with a native diparia. Mm-hmm. The native diparia, maybe because of zebra mussels, have taken a huge nosedive. Okay. And for instance, if you have a young child when they're very young, it's very important that they get a healthy amount of fats. Right. Fish are basically the same way. Okay. And these shrimp. The native ones are that source of protein and fat to help the fish develop well in its early part of its life cycle. So they're usually way offshore and they're deep, and now these are going to be near shore. The new bloody red are kind of near shore species it appears, and so we just don't know yet all the impacts, but it's another confounding factor in the whole. And how big are these?